What's up, everyone? Smalls here to bring you another weekly episode of Small Talk. Be sure to check us out at FTN Bets and FTNBets.com. While you're over there, check out FTN Fantasy. My injury tracker is up. It's going to be your best friend this season to set your lineups, keeping you up to date on all the latest injury news. As always, a huge shout out to our sponsors at Tipico Sportsbook. Download their app. They'll match 100% of your first deposit up to $750. This week, we're going to talk about the Scott Fishbowl and more of those NFL futures as the season is quickly approaching. Let's go. And joining me this week is Tino Rodriguez. He's our producer coming back from backstage and going to join me to talk it up. Let's chat about Scott Fishbowl. How's it going for you?
Well, first off, this is my third time here. Three-peat. Feel pretty good about it. This is also the Steph flu game. This episode's going to go down as the Steph flu game. It's a very important episode here. I feel like I'm Pippen with Jordan right now. It's insane. It's insane that you're here, but true professional. So, yeah, Scott Fishbowl is going well. Another thing you helped me get into, shout out to Scott Fish for giving me the chance to get in that and for you kind of giving me the boost. It's going really well so far. I'm not done yet. I know people are done. I don't know if this is supposed to happen, but I'm in the 15th round still. I got like 6 or 7 picks left, but it's going pretty good. Very slow, but it's going really good. How's it going for you?
It's going. I only have 1 pick left, so I'm just about there waiting for everyone to round it out. I managed to get those picks in. I'm glad I wasn't sleeping during my 18-hour uninterrupted slumber I randomly took, which is very unlike me, as everyone that knows me, I literally don't sleep. So to get 18 hours uninterrupted is quite shocking. So let's talk about your team. Did you get sniped? Are you happy? Are we not happy? What's the mood?
So I picked 8, and I feel like I was due to get sniped. There was a bunch of them, a lot of similar ones to you, something we've talked about. Tannehill was a guy I thought I'd be able to get maybe eventually. Just no chance of that. It wasn't that close, but there was just no chance that was happening. I feel like every time I had a plan, it pretty much just went out the window. So, there's just too much to classify as a snipe session. But I do think with how Scott Fishbowl is set up, it kind of gets you to get out of your comfort zone and try some different things. So right now I have Jags and Browns as my stacks, which I never thought I'd end up with, but here we are. What a time. I mean, I'm just going with what the board's giving me. And so, yeah, I have a lot of Jags. I have a lot of Browns, and I didn't plan on it to go this way, but I feel pretty good about it. I don't feel so bad.
What is the best value player that you got, you think?
So AJ Brown, I weighted receiver. I got AJ Brown at 4.8. I feel really good about that. I mean, I know Scott Fish is a little different, but I mean, we're big in dynasty, we're big in fantasy, and I know AJ Brown is a lot of people's wide receiver ones, regardless of where you're looking. So for me, I wait on receiver. I'm able to get a young wide receiver 1 at 4.8. After waiting the first 3 rounds, felt pretty good about it. And it allowed me to kind of wait on receiver a little bit longer, which I ended up doing, and it turned out to not kill me because I feel confident enough in AJ Brown to hold it down as my 1.
Is that something you would normally do in a normal draft? Would you wait on wide receiver like that?
I would actually. I'm a little different than most people. I'm always a running back hoarding type of person. I wait on receiver and tight end a bunch. I just don't like taking receiver in the first 2 rounds. I might reach on one at 3 if I really find one on a wrap, but taking receiver at 4 kind of makes sense to me because I know in those first 3 rounds, I tend to play the board and see what value falls to me. And more often than not, being a running back guy, I'll just take running back. If a quarterback's there, sure, but I'll go 3 running backs and then worry about the rest later.
It's crazy because I usually will not wait on a wide receiver. It makes me nervous. But I was able to wait until the 5th round, and I took Justin Jefferson, who I was debating Devontae Adams or Justin Jefferson, which I talked about with Elliot last week. Very excited about that. Got Darren Waller at the 112, which a lot of people in most leagues got him much, much earlier. So very, very excited about that. I usually fade quarterbacks. Got Matthew Stafford in the 3rd. Got totally sniped with Tannehill, which was definitely very frustrating for me because I did have my eyes on the prize as far as that went. So speaking about Tannehill, let's talk about I'm going to forget here.
So, well, here's the good news in terms of Scott Fishbowl. So I did get a tight end early. I went George Kittle in the second. So I was able to I'll help you out here. So I got George Kittle in the second. And then I'd say, though, just to tie this in, my biggest value was A.J. Brown. But here's what happened. So I took Trevor Lawrence because all the quarterbacks kind of went crazy on me. And I took him in the third round. And then I think my situation at receiver was I wanted to get one of the Jags guys, but I didn't want to overdo it too soon. So there were a few times I had Chark in my eyes, and like I was thinking maybe Chark, but then I was like, let me wait on Shenault, and then Chark went, and then so it made my life easier, and I was going to take Shenault, and then I kind of got sniped on Shenault, then waited, and now round 12 I got Marvin Jones, and it's not the sexiest stack, but it is a Jag stack, and Marvin Jones I think could be really good for me this year, so I waited on it, and it kind of played in my favor. So I think the best values I kind of got were at the position I waited on the longest, in A.J. Brown and Marvin Jones, getting Jones in the 12th.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of wide receivers dropping very low. Marvin Jones also dropped for me. Going back to Tannehill, I want to talk about, most passing yards. Talking about his number with Tipico, right? We're looking at 50-1, which is fantastic odds, I think, for the players that got added, right? We're looking at Julio Jones. We already have an A.J. Brown there. What do you think for passing yards leader this year?
So 50-1 is aggressive on Tannehill. Shout out to Tipico, great sponsor. But guys, you're asking for me to bet that number. I know that's what that's there for. He just added Julio Jones. I just think it's too far. If you look at it, we have Russell Wilson kind of right ahead of him at 20-1. Look, Wilson's proven it, but I would take the receiving core, and I know if we talk about rushing leaders, obviously Derrick Henry's the favorite, so that's why that number would make sense. But you just had Julio Jones, who has led the league in receiving before, a top 5 receiver year in, year out. Match it with A.J. Brown, who we just talked about. 50-1 is just too high for me. So I'll definitely take that. Here's a guy I really want to talk about in Joe Burrow. 15-1. I love the value here. So over a 16-game season, if he played all 16 last year, he would have finished neck and neck with Herbert at the 6-7 spot of the NFL leaders in passing, which, by the way, would have been a great finish to see who actually won Rookie of the Year, because that was a debate at one point last year. People thought Burrow would get it, and then it kind of cleared up for Herbert. So I love Burrow here at 15-1. He finished 6-7 in a 16-game season scale last year. You add Jamar Chase, who led college football in receiving the last season he played with Joe Burrow. They're going to be down a bunch. Their defense isn't very good. They're going to throw the ball a ton. He threw the ball like 60 times a game last year. I think with Chase, Higgins, Boyd, they're just going to air it out. And 15-1 is really, really good value for Burrow. Really good.
Yeah.
And I know Dak is popular, and everyone loves Dak, but it's like, I'm looking for value here. I'm not taking the second best guy. I'm not taking the chalk. Right. We're taking Joe Burrow. That's my guy.
The value isn't horrible on Dak at 5-1. And yes, with the way he was on pace, which again, I say it all the time, he's the only player that I'm going to allow to be on pace. But again, we have to see a little bit out of Dak returning from his injury. It's not like he just got a bruise, or as Tony Romo would say, it's not like he just had a leg cramp. Okay. Like, dude needed 2 surgeries. It's not just leg cramp. So I agree with you. I also, obviously, as everyone knows, love me some Kyler Murray. Unfortunately, he does have that rushing upside to him, which I think takes away from it. But talking about Joe Burrow, just spinning off that and going off topic like I love to, maybe it's the fever that I actively have right now. But out of those receivers, is there one that you like the most or you have gravitated to during your drafts this season?
I mean, if I could get Chase, I really like him. I also find myself kind of caught in between the Higgins and Boyd debate, because I rostered Boyd at a value last year, kind of where he's going this year. Mm-hmm. And he really played well with Burrow, especially. When Burrow played, the two of them were hand in hand. He was a PPR machine. I mean, steady Eddie, you throw him in your flex, you're going to get 10 to 15, no questions asked. But in terms of athleticism and upside, I love what T. Higgins could offer in terms of touchdowns. So between the two, I'm totally torn. And honestly, in all my drafts, I haven't gotten a piece of any of the receivers yet. I've gotten Burrow a few places. I want Chase first and foremost. But the decision between Higgins and Boyd, I think, is really tough, because it turns into that, do you want receptions? Do you want touchdowns? I think Higgins' touchdown ceiling is gigantic. But Boyd and PPR formats is about as safe of a flex play as you'll get.
All right, talking about receivers, let's talk about most receiving yards. Let's bring the odds up and look into these. What do you like here?
I like too much of everything, actually. So me and you both have talked about how we love ourselves some DeAndre Hopkins as wide receiver 1. He's my forever wide receiver 1. I have a soft spot for him. But it's also mainly because I'm really high on Kyler this year. And I know we talked about passing yards. I do think it's interesting that when you look at 7.5 to 1 for DeAndre Hopkins here, he is the outright. Well, he's not outright actually. Stephon Diggs is right next to him at 7.5 to 1. But you compare it to where Josh Allen and Kyler Murray are on the passing yards list. I mean, D Hop is the number 1 target for Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is at 20 to 1 to lead in passing yards. I just think the numbers don't correlate. I think it makes too much sense that the Cardinals offense passing wise is going to explode. And I love DeAndre Hopkins to be at the forefront of that. I know that's chalky, so I'll say something a little bit different here, but I do actually like the front runner here in DeAndre Hopkins. Let's look at CeeDee Lamb real quick. Okay, 20 to 1. Another number that doesn't make sense here if you look at Tipico again. 5 to 1 for Dak. We just talked about it. It's a good number, solid enough value, but there are no Cowboys receivers on this list to be seen anywhere aside from CeeDee Lamb at 20 to 1. So if you're really high on Dak, you're here for the Dak MVP train, you think all these things are going to happen, he's going to lead the league in passing yards, then go get CeeDee Lamb at 20 to 1 right now to lead the league in receiving. I think it just adds up and makes sense. Well, maybe he finishes 2-3, but that bet's going to be very close if the projections on Dak actually end up coming close to hitting.
Right, and I agree with you. If you're high on Dak, there's no reason that this isn't a beautiful number for you. But aside from Hopkins, someone that also has those same 7.5 to 1 odds is Stephon Diggs. He finished last year first in receiving yards. Hopkins finished third. There's no reason either of these guys cannot finish first next year. I'm all in on both of these numbers. It just gets hairy in between. I would have loved Calvin Ridley here at plus 1,000. Not Kyle Pitts, you get Julio out of the equation. But again, Kyle Pitts has that receiving upside. So that makes me less excited about those numbers there. But I very much agree with you on CeeDee Lamb. Dak he was on pace. That's all we hear. And if that's the case, if you're all in on him doing what he was said to do, I think that the guy that's going to get that is CeeDee Lamb.
I do want to shout out, though. I know this is a receiving statistic. We're supposed to talk about receivers. I thought when we were in the green room here and looking up some stats before the show, the most mind-boggling thing is that Travis Kelce finished 2 in receiving. And if you look at the odds on Tipico, he's at 13 to 1. He almost led all receivers in the entire league in receiving last year. And this guy's at 13 to 1. He's behind his own teammate, Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, one more shot at value here. I know he's a tight end, but Travis Kelce at 13 to 1. I mean, I guess there's going to be regression. It's something you'll talk about with any player, but I mean, I don't know. Again, if you look at the numbers, you're telling me Mahomes might lead the league in passing. Why wouldn't it be to Kelce again? Why wouldn't that be his go-to target again?
Yeah.
So one makes a lot of sense for me on Kelce as well.
There's a lot to like about the odds with the receiving yards. And I'll just switch right in before we wrap things up so I can go rest, not be as sick as I feel right now. But talking about most rushing yards, a number that I love to death is 10 to 1 Jonathan Taylor. He finished third. I mean, we're talking about 1,169 yards. There is no reason, especially if, our friend Won't ends up not doing as well as some of us expect. That number is beautiful to me. I am all in on that, something that I am absolutely going to be throwing money on.
I'm actually super excited. So the last time I was on this show, and we officially turned small talk into a Najee Harris truther show. I know we established this the last time, and we are going right back to that. Najee at 20 to 1. Okay, we talked about, if you need the examples, just revert back to the last episode, but I'll tell you again. He finished third in rushing for Alabama in the nation. Sorry, not for Alabama. In the nation last year, and the guy did a lot with his hands in the backfield as well. So if they give him a heavy workload, rookies leading in rushing is not like an anomaly. I mean, Kareem Hunt did it. Saquon back in 2018 finished second to Zeke, and he arguably could have done more. Shout out to Saquon, who I also think has some decent odds at 12-1, but he won't play enough. And that was Giants talk for this episode. We were doing really good.
I was just going to say, I was so excited for you to finish talking, for me to say we made it through an entire episode without bringing up the Giants, but there you go.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. But Najee Harris,
we'll end on our Giants note.
Yeah.
And we'll end on our Giants note. We'll end there. Tell everyone where they can find you. I know you're always behind the camera. So many good things happening over at FTN. Where can they find you on Twitter? What's going on?
Yeah, so follow me at Tino Rodriguez _. As you guys know by now, only memes, but my memes have been fire lately, so I highly recommend. And just check out everything on FTN. FTN Fantasy has been great. FTN Bets, you could check Small Talk as well as everything else on FTN Bets. And yeah, just FTN Nation, maybe to the moon.
Yeah,
to the moon.
That's it. And this guy's patting himself on the back for his memes, but they are pretty good. But if you want to get these NFL futures in, go download Tipico's app. They'll match 100% of your first deposit up to $750. Get that money in. The season's quickly approaching. I'm very excited about it. And keep your eyes out. Off Topic is finally coming out. My first episode with Adam Rank. Keep your eyes peeled. But until next week, for Small Talk, catch you on the flip.